Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. IRS announces 2 new online tools to help families manage child tax credit payments. Let me give a quick recap of the changes that have been made to the child tax credit. They are significant and they can be confusing, which is why these new tools are needed to help people to understand them. Then we'll talk about how these tools kind of fit into the changes that have been made. So the child tax credit has been around for some time, but they've made adjustments to it, including increasing the amount of the child tax credit and making more of it or all of it a refundable portion, meaning that you would get money back even if your tax liability went below zero. They have also made a portion of it applicable to a prepayment, which is a tool that we have seen in the past, including related to the economic impact payments, which are basically prepayments of the recovery rebate credit, similar kind of idea. Insurance payments on the marketplace being another kind of similar idea where they basically lower the insurance payments, giving the credit beforehand that you got to kind of reconcile when you actually file the tax return. So what they've done is they've significantly increased the amount of the child tax credit for the tax year 2021, and they're going to try to estimate it and then give basically a prepayment of it in 2021. So in other words, if there was not any prepayment that was taking place and they simply made the changes to the increased level and the amount of the credit that is going to be a refundable credit, then you would normally have to file in 2022 for the tax year of 2021, and then you would get this increased amount for the child tax credit that would take place, and it wouldn't be limited to your tax liability as it has been in the past, and basically you would result in a higher credit. Now, because they have that refundable portion, it's going to make it easier for them to basically estimate what the credit will be, because you don't have that income threshold in terms of the liability, although you could still have a phase-out threshold on the high side of the income as the credit may phase out at some point. So then they're going to basically look at the prior year, 2020 or 2019, if they don't have 2020, to estimate what the tax credit would be for 2021. They're going to take a portion of that credit and actually try to give it out to people in monthly payments that will take place. So you actually possibly then be getting these monthly prepayments, which would be related to the child tax credit that's tied to the 2021 tax return, which you normally wouldn't file or will not file until 2022. And then, of course, you're going to have to reconcile when you file the tax return the amount of the actual credit based on the actual calculation in 2022 to the amount of prepayments that you're getting throughout the year in 2021. So this is a little bit complicated to do, but similar kind of idea with these prepayment kind of components that we're seeing and we have seen with these changes in the past. So now they've got some tools to kind of figure this out. There's some clear loopholes or some clear problems that could take place with this. One could be, well, what if there's an income phase out? What if they don't have the prior year tax returns? What if there was another kid that was born or another dependent that came into the family in 2021 or something like that? Would they be eligible for the prepayment? And then also, of course, tracking the payments to the proper location, making sure they have the proper location to send the payments out to, and making sure that the information is out there. So when you file the tax return in 2022, you know how much you got paid, so you can properly file the tax return, because it will be a bit more complex to do at that point as well. So here's the tools that we have fitting in, hopefully, to that general scenario. So we have the Child Tax Credit Eligibility Assistant, helps families determine whether they qualify for the child tax credit payments, so you can determine whether or not you're eligible for the payments. Update Portal helps families monitor and manage child tax credit payments. So they got another one to kind of manage where those payments are going and whether you've gotten the payments and so on. So the IR 2021-130, June 22nd, 2021, Washington. The Internal Revenue Service today launched 2 new online tools designed to help families manage and monitor the advanced monthly payments of child tax credits under the American Rescue Plan. These 2 new tools are in addition to non-filer sign-up tool announced last week, which helps families not normally required to file an income tax return to quickly register for the child tax credit. So this was a tool that they had, this non-filer sign-up tool. They had it last year when they were sending out these economic impact payments, and they didn't have some of the tax returns for some people because they were below the threshold, were not required to file. So they had this non-filer tool sign up, which they've kind of brought back now for this year that you could use. So if you're in a situation where your income is below the threshold, you're not required to file, but you want to give the IRS the information about your dependents so that you possibly would qualify for the child tax credit, you can use that tool. Now, note that if you have dependents at this point in time, then you might have other benefits that you could be qualified for, like the earned income tax credit and so on. So it might be worth checking out to file the tax return in any case, which you can basically do usually for free if your income is below a certain threshold by looking up the free file software on the IRS website, and you might be able to use software to do that. So in any case, the new Child Tax Credit Eligibility Assistant, there's a link to that here, allows families to answer a series of questions to quickly determine whether they qualify for the advanced credit. So if you're questioning, okay, what's going to be the credit? Do I qualify for the credit? You can go through that questionnaire here because, again, you don't really calculate it until you would actually do the tax return in 2022. But obviously, if you qualified for the child tax credit in the prior year, then the conditions were usually more strict, even though the amount was less in the prior year and so on. So if you qualified in the prior year, you would think if the circumstances were somewhat similar that you would qualify under the new and broader, encompassing rules that would be in place. But again, if you want to take a look at that in a little bit more detail, you can look at the Child Tax Credit Eligibility Assistant. There's a link to that here. The Child Tax Credit Update Portal, there's a link to that here, allows families to verify their eligibility for the payments and, if they choose to, unenroll or opt out from receiving the monthly payments so they can receive a lump sum when they file their tax return next year. So if for whatever reason you're saying, hey, look, I don't want the prepayments, I just want to file my taxes, it might be easier. There's a couple of reasons. You might say, well, why would I want to do that? I would want my payments now. Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, you might be moving around, so you don't want them mailing the payments possibly to a wrong address from the prior tax year or something like that, although you could possibly use direct deposit or something, but that might be one reason that you have a concern about that. Or you might just say, hey, look, it's confusing for me to kind of figure out how much you paid me monthly throughout the year and then try to compare that to what the tax credit would be when I file the tax return in 2022 for year 2021. I would just rather make it easy and just file the tax return and not have to deal with these prepayment type of thing. So that could be another option that you might just say, hey, look, I just want to opt out. So if you want to opt out, you possibly can do that by doing this. And if you don't opt out, it looks to me like the default position is the IRS is going to calculate whatever they think it should be and just start sending checks out to whatever payment, if they have your address from the prior tax return or your bank information from the prior return, they're probably going to just start sending out the payments in the same format that you've received refunds for or whatever in prior years. So in any case, this secure password protected tool is available to any eligible family with the internet access and a smartphone or computer. Future versions of the tool planned in the summer and fall will allow people to view their payment history, adjust bank account information or mailing address, and other features. A Spanish version is also planned. So it looks like they're looking at this in the future. Looks like an important change here. It says future versions of the tool, so not quite yet here. Planned in the summer and fall, allow people to view their payment history. That's going to be important because obviously people are going to want to track what payments they've gotten and whatnot and when they're going to get their next payment. Adjust bank account information. That's quite important because, again, they're going to have to depend on the prior whatever refund they gave out in the past and whatnot. So they're going to need the banking information or somewhere to send the money, of course, or the mailing address. So you might have a prior mailing address. If you change addresses, it's kind of important that if that's where the checks are going, that you're able to change that would be nice, and or add a banking information if you want to do that. And Spanish version would be muy bien as well. So both the Child Tax Credit Eligibility Assistant and Child Tax Credit Update Portal are available now on IRS.gov. That's the IRS website, irs.gov. The American Rescue Plan increases the maximum child tax credit amount in 2021 to $3,600 per child for children under the age of 6 and $3,000 per child for children ages 6 through 17. So there's two ways you can look at this credit, meaning you can look at it in terms of what the credit would be if you didn't get any prepayments, and then how much would the prepayments be if depending on the children that would be there to see what the per payment amount would be for the prepayments. So if there was no prepayment, then the credit would be calculated, or the credit calculated including all payments together then would be $3,600 per child for the children that are under the age of 6. There's a 2-tier type of thing, and then if the child is between 6 and 17, which I think includes 17 now, which I think is one of the changes, then it's $3,000 per child. That's total. And then the advanced child tax credit, which will generally be made on the 15th of each month, created financial certainty for families to plan their budgets. Eligible families will receive a payment of up to $300 per month for each child under age 6 and up to $250. So this is the per month amount that you're going to get. Now remember, they're not taking the full amount. Like if you had one child, that you would have had the $3,600. I don't think they're not delivering out the full amount as the prepayment, because if they were to do that when you file the tax return, then you wouldn't get any credit on the tax return. And people are used to getting, I think, like $2,000 per child when they file the tax return. So I think they're taking a portion of the amount that would be the total, like $3,600 for one child under 6, and then dividing it by the number of months that are out there and that are left in the year, and then they're going to give the prepayment per child. So you can think about the amount that of the monthly checks that you would then be receiving would either be $300 per child for each child under the age of 6, or up to $250 per month for each child 6 through 17. And then you can start to think of, okay, well, how many monthly payments am I going to get? And then you would compare those monthly payments to the total amount that you would have to calculate for the credit. The difference between the two is what you would think then you would get when you file the tax return in 2022 for tax year 2021. If that makes sense, that's my best interpretation of it, worded as well as I can at this point. So the first monthly payment of the expanded and newly advanced child tax credit will be made on July 15th. So most families will begin receiving monthly payments automatically next month without further action required. So let's do a quick calculation. Let's say we had one child that was under 6, and we got monthly payments, I would assume, from July through December. So we would have July, August, September, October, November, December, 6 months. So we'd say we'd get the $300 times 6. So, hold on a second. 300 times 6 would be the 1,800, and the full credit was the 3,600. So you'd get that amount per month, you would think, minus the 3,600 for the full credit for that one child. That means you still got the 1,800 that would be eligible, that you'd still get when you file the tax return in 2022. Or in other words, it looks like they took the 3,600 divided by 2, took half of it, and then divided it out over the remaining 6 months in the year, given $300, if that was the scenario. So again, that's little confusing, but that's what we're doing with these prepayments now. So, quote, IRS employees continue to work hard to help people receive this payment credit, end quote. IRS Commissioner Chuck Reddick said, quote, the update portal is a key piece among the 3 new tools now available on irs.gov to help families understand, register for, and monitor these payments. We will be working across the nation with partner groups to share information and help eligible people receive the advance payments, end quote. More features coming to the update portal soon. Coming soon, families will be able to use the Child Tax Credit Update Portal to check the status of their payments. In late June, people will be able to update their bank account information for payments starting in August. In early August, a feature is planned that will allow people to update their mailing address. Then, in future updates planned for this summer and fall, they will be able to use the tool for things like updating family status and changes in income. Whew, that's a lot of updates. So in any case, we'll be looking forward to that. We'll report on those. For more information, see the FAQs, frequently asked questions, which will continue to be updated. So the update portal allows people to unenroll. Instead of receiving these advance payments, some families may prefer to wait until the end of the year and receive the entire credit as a refund when they file their 2021 tax return, like the normal way. So in this first release of the tool, the Child Tax Credit Update Portal now enables these families to quickly and easily unenroll from receiving the payment. So if you do not want the monthly payments, because you think whatever reason it would be, you have to unenroll because the default would be that they're just going to send out the checks or payment or bank account, whatever payment they got. So the unenroll feature can also be helpful for any families that no longer qualify for the child tax credit or believes they will not qualify when they file their 2020 return. This could happen if, for example, their income in 2021 is too high to qualify for the credit. So this is another one that another kind of pitfall that you can just basically know that's going to happen. It's going to cause some problems, meaning they got rid of the lower limit with making the full credit refundable, which makes it easier to calculate or estimate by prior years, but there's still an upper limit. So if your income goes over a certain threshold, then it could cause a problem because they're not going to get the prepayment possibly correct in that situation. So if your income is at the threshold where that's concerning, there's also could be a significantly big difference between the income in 2020 and 2021, given the drawback in the economy from COVID and whatnot. So income ranges will vary a lot. So someone else, an ex-spouse or another family member, for example, qualifies to claim their child or children as dependent in 2021. That's the other big problem, of course, is that if they base it on 2020, you may have situations where someone was born in 2021 that you could have a prepayment for, or if you have a separation kind of agreement with someone or dual custody of some kind of way, then it might be the case that one dependent's claimed on tax return may be 1 year and one spouse and another year and another spouse, which again, that's going to cause problems with regards to the prepayment. If they base it on the prior year and that dependent is no longer on that return for whatever reason, they would need to know that to kind of update their prepayment estimate. Their main home was outside the United States for more than half the year in 2021. That could impact the amount of the credit that would be there as well. And again, the IRS should need to know that to update their prepayment portion. So accessing the update portal, to access the Child Tax Credit Update Portal, a person must first verify their identity. If a person has an existing IRS username and ID.me account, there's a link to that here, with a verified identity, they can use those accounts to easily sign in. So in other words, if you've already got an account with the IRS, it might make it easier to basically sign into this new tool. It looks like it's becoming more and more advantageous to have an account with the IRS because of all these kind of changes that they're doing that's going to be kind of through their website. So people without an existing account will be asked to verify their identity with a form of photo identification using ID.me. So you need a photo identification, a trusted third party for the IRS. Identity verification is an important safeguard and will protect your account from identity theft. Anyone who lacks internet access or otherwise cannot use the online tool may unenroll by contacting the IRS at the phone number included in your outreach letter. So you might say, hey, look, I don't want to deal with the IRS website. I just don't want this kind of thing. Don't start sending me checks. I'll fill out the tax return at the end. You could try to call them in that case, and they may be able to take care of it for you that way without this verification problems. So who is getting a monthly payment? In general, monthly payments will go to the eligible families who filed either a 2019 or 2020 federal income tax return, because they're going to base it on prior year information, even though it's a prepayment for 2021, used the non-filer tool on IRS.gov in 2020, or registered for an economic impact payment, registered for the advanced child tax credit this year using the new non-filer sign-up tool on IRS.gov. An eligible family who took any of these steps does not need to do anything else to get their payments. So what do you have to do to get the payments? Generally nothing. It should basically happen by default if the IRS has the information, which generally would be there from the tax return or this non-filer tool. So normally the IRS will calculate the advance payment based on the 2020 income tax return. If that return is not available, either because it has not yet been filed or it has not yet been processed, the IRS is instead determining the payment using the 2019 tax return. Eligible families will receive advance payments either by direct deposit or check. Each payment will be up to $300 per month for each child under age 6 and up to $250 per month for each child age 6 through 17. the IRS will issue advanced child tax credit payments on these dates: July 15th, August 13th, September 15th, October 15th, November 15th, and December 15th. The IRS urges any families who hasn't yet filed their 2020 return or 2019 return to do so as soon as possible so they can receive any advance payments they're eligible for. So if you don't have those two returns in, or one of the two, then the IRS doesn't have your information and you won't get the advance payments. If you filed 2019 return and there was a new child that came into the world or a new dependent in 2020, then you're not going to get the advance payment for that other dependent in that situation, because the IRS may not have that information as well either. So it might be advantageous in that case to file 2020, or possibly maybe the IRS will pick up some new tool to pick up like a new dependent in 2021 or something like that. So at the same time, the agency cautions that tax returns must be processed by June 28th to be reflected in the first batch of monthly payments scheduled for July 15th. So July 15th is coming up. So if you process your tax return later, you might not hit that cutoff date to get that first payment out by the July 15th. So eligible families filing now will quickly receive payments in the following months. Even if monthly payments begin after July, the IRS will adjust the monthly amounts upward to ensure that people still receive half of their total eligible child tax credit benefits by the end of the year. So if they have to make adjustments after the first payment went out, it looks like they're saying they're going to be able to basically adjust the following payments to reflect the change that possibly happened if you use one of these. If you file your tax returns maybe, and they're going to adjust it. So we'll see how that works, because that seems kind of complicated, time consuming, a lot of information. So filing soon will also ensure that the IRS has their most current bank account information as well as key details about qualifying family members. So obviously if they don't have the right banking information, filing the tax return with the right banking information, making sure they get the payments to the right place and have the right number of dependents would be nice. This includes people who don't normally file a tax return, such as families experiencing homelessness and people in underserved groups. For most people, the fastest and easiest way to file a tax return is by using IRS Free File. There's a link to that here, available only on irs.gov. Besides qualifying them for these advance payments, using Free File will also enable them to claim their family-oriented tax benefits if eligible, such as the Earned Income Tax Credit and Recovery Rebate Credit / Economic Impact Payment. New tool helps non-filers register. For families who don't normally file an income tax return, another easy option is to register for these advance payments using the non-filer sign-up tool introduced recently and available only on irs.gov. Among other things, the tool asks users to supply current bank information along with key details about themselves and their qualifying children. The tool then automatically fills in a very basic 2020 federal income tax return that is electronically sent to the IRS. The new tool was developed in partnership with Intuit, the owner of QuickBooks, as many people know them, or TurboTax, and the Free File Alliance. Child Tax Credit Eligibility Assistance unveiled. Before filing a return or using the non-filer sign-up tool, families ensure of whether they qualify for their credit or the advance payment may want to check out another new tool, the Child Tax Credit Eligibility Assistant. By answering a series of questions, the tool helps people determine if they qualify for the credit and the payments. The IRS emphasizes that because the Child Tax Credit Eligibility Assistant requests no personalized information, it is not a registration tool but merely an eligibility tool. Nevertheless, it can still help an eligible family determine whether they should take the next step and either file an income tax return or register using the non-filer sign-up tool. Personal help available. IRS and its partners are helping families register for the payments using the non-filer sign-up tool. During late June and early July, free events will take place in Atlanta, Brooklyn, Detroit, Houston, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas, Miami, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Phoenix, St. Louis, Washington, D.C. More details will be available soon at irs.gov. Child Tax Credit 2021. The IRS has created a special Advanced Child Tax Credit 2021 page designed to provide the most up-to-date information about the credit and advanced payments. It's at irs.gov/Child Tax Credit 2021. There's a link to that page here if you want to go there. There'll be a link to this in the description. Among other things, it provides direct links to the non-filer sign-up tool, the Child Tax Credit Update Portal, the Child Tax Credit Eligibility Assistant, a set of frequently asked questions, and other useful resources. Child tax credit changes. The American Rescue Plan raised the maximum child tax credit in 2021 to $3,600 for children under the age of 6 and $3,000 per child for children ages 6 through 17. This is kind of a recap, so I'm going through this a little bit quickly, but they give us the income thresholds, which is kind of new here. So before 2021, the credit was worth up to $2,000 per eligible child, significant increase. The new maximum credit is available to taxpayers with a modified adjusted gross income. So here's the income phase-outs, which could be applicable. $75,000 less for singles. So if you're single, $75,000 or less. $112,500 or less for head of household filers, $150,000 or less for married couples filing a joint return, and qualified widows and widowers. For most people, modified AGI, adjusted gross income, is the amount shown on line 11 of the 2020 Form 1040 or Form 1040 SR. Above these income thresholds, the extra amount above the original $2,000 credit, either $1,000 or $1,600 per child, is reduced by $50 for every $1,000 in modified AGI. In other words, there's a phase out that takes place once your income is over that threshold, which gets a little bit complicated. So in addition, the credit is fully refundable for 2021, meaning if your liability, you have no tax liability, you still kind of get the benefit of it. This means that the eligible families can get it even if they owe no federal income tax. Before this year, refundable portion was limited to $1,400 per child, so it's a huge increase in the eligibility proportion. Help spread the word. The IRS urges community groups, nonprofits, associations, education organizations, and anyone else with connections to people with children to share this critical information about the child tax credit, as well as other important benefits. Among other things, the IRS is already working closely with its community partners to ensure wide access to the non-filer sign-up tool and the Child Tax Credit Update Portal. The agency is also providing additional materials and information that can be easily shared by social media, email, and other methods. For the most up-to-date information on the child tax credit and advanced payments, visit Advanced Child Tax Credit Payments in 2021. There's a link to that here and a link to this in the description.